The Korean War was the first example of the Cold War turning hot.
Bombs away.
It lasted from 1950 to 1953, and North and South Korea have technically been at war ever since, with few signs of reconciliation.
The differences and the misunderstandings of the two sides are too serious.
But why did Korea split in two? And what roles did the US, China, and the Soviet Union play? For a millennium, Korea had existed as a unified country and remained united during 35 years of Japanese colonial rule. But in 1945, following Japan's defeat at the end of World War II, its empire collapsed and Korea was liberated, leaving behind a power vacuum. The Soviets took control of the northern part, while in the south, the US, fearing a communist expansion, did the same. The two powers defined their zones of influence, agreeing to separate the peninsula, initially temporarily, at the 38th parallel. In 1948, these two zones then became independently governed territories, and both the superpowers withdrew. In the south, the First Republic of Korea was established, with the conservative and nationalist Syngman Rhee as its democratically elected president. In response, the Communist Democratic People's Republic of Korea was proclaimed in the north, led by Kim Il-sung. Each of the two states remained aligned with the Americans and Soviets respectively, and each claimed sovereignty over all of Korea. In 1949, two things happened that changed how external powers saw the peninsula. The Communist Revolution saw Chairman Mao Zedong take charge of China, and the Soviets conducted their first successful nuclear test.
And then the US changed the whole policy. They have the more serious and strong containment policy against the Communist and the Soviet Union.
Then on the 25th of June 1950, North Korean troops crossed the 38th parallel. Kim Il-sung did this after getting the support of Joseph Stalin, the Soviet leader, which Stalin gave on the condition that Mao also back the war.
Without Stalin's permission, actually, Kim Il-sung, the North Korean founder and leader, he could not start the war.
The attack took the international community and South Korea by surprise, and the North Korean army advanced rapidly through most of the peninsula. But the US, led by President Harry Truman, intervened quickly. Remember, the world was in the midst of Cold War tensions, and nearby Japan was now under US occupation, in the hope of creating a stable ally in East Asia.
President Truman, he really would like to contain the communist power in East Asia to protect Japan and protect the free market area from the communists.
So, with the authorization from the UN, troops from the US landed in Korea. Through intensive aerial bombing, the Americans razed entire cities. Alongside traditional munitions, napalm was used, a chemical that burns skin to the bone. US soldiers advanced north under a UN flag, past the 38th parallel, and near the Chinese border. China then entered the war. And with the support of Mao's army, Kim Il-sung's North Korean forces were able to counterattack. The front line shifted several times throughout the war, ending roughly back at the 38th parallel. Then on the 27th of July 1953, shortly after Stalin's death, an armistice was signed.
The armistice agreement clearly does not mean the end of the war. It just means the cessation of the hostility.
Where the fighting ended became a no man's land known as a demilitarized zone, or DMZ, which acts as a buffer around the border between North and South Korea.
I see the name is the demilitarized zone. In fact, it's a very militarized zone.
A final peace treaty has still not been agreed upon.
The South Korean government did not want to sign on the treaty because the South Korean leader, he would like to expel all of communists from the Korean peninsula.
Experts estimate that more than 3 million people died, including at least 2 million civilians.
Korean War was one of the bloodiest wars of the 20th century.
The war was decided by the political leaders. but actually the people there suffered. The devastation of war was really serious.
75 years on from the start of the conflict, relations between the two Koreas remain tense. There have been attempts at reconciliation, but profound ideological differences have been hard to overcome. This has been exacerbated by the totalitarian Kim dynasty in the north and economic prosperity in the south. Thousands of Korean families still live separated by the DMZ.
They have the very different life under the different styles, the regimes. South Korea, under the liberal democracy, enjoy the prosperity and the political freedom, while the North Korean family members still they were completely controlled by the North Korean regime.
That border remains one of the last remnants of the Cold War. Though there is a place that the two sides can meet for direct negotiations called the Joint Security Area, known as the JSA. The two countries last met there with President Donald Trump in 2019.
Hopefully, I think that the JSA could be the world symbolic area for peace in the future. I hope.